Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. And it's a Tuesday morning here on Mystery Island, a little after 11 a.m., where we have been anticipating hearing from Harley Schlanger. Haven't heard from him yet, although he certainly is on the schedule for this morning. Sometimes around this time of year, the European clocks change in a way that is not anticipated, and that happened once. I'm wondering if that might be going on right now. At any rate, we will probably hear from Harley in no time, but I just trust that he's fine, and I'm sure he is. And so, therefore, I thought I'd just say hello to everybody and welcome to those of you who are here. Neil Martin is saying hello. Oh, nothing. No clock change in Europe. Okay, well, miscommunication possibly, or maybe he's handling something emergency based. Interesting topic that I put on our meme today. Oh, good evening, Polly. Hi. Um, that question of is the U.S. Sponsoring biowarfare labs in Ukraine? And that was alleged by this General Kirillov, who was the head of the Russian um, nuclear, chemical, and biological warfare preparedness unit, a very top senior general who really knows the stuff. So he's assassinated, and the Ukrainian SBU claims credit for the assassination, and everybody goes along with that in the press. Yeah, it was them. Interesting, though, when you think about it in the context of the drones over New Jersey and New York City, and also down here as far as Maryland being sighted right here in my community, that the president and the president-elect and everybody who is talking about it is just kind of shrugging their shoulders and saying, "Oh, well, it's nothing illegal. We're monitoring it. Believe us, we have the whole thing under control, and so don't worry about it." Um, yeah, and was just perhaps may have been a coincidence, but as I read about General Kirillov, the Russian that was assassinated yesterday, that he also accused the Ukraine of developing a dirty bomb. And so now I'm starting to connect a lot of speculation in my mind. And it's easy to speculate that this has to do with what's going on in this uh, drone infestation of, uh, the northeast coast of America. Are they searching for something that has been suggested to perhaps be a dirty bomb? And the other interesting part of it is that when asked who's doing it, I think it was John Kirby, the Pentagon spokesman, saying, well, there's no law against private individuals flying drones in unprotected airspace. And again, or law enforcement, he said. So now I'm thinking, okay, private individuals who have a fleet of 6-foot wide drones, the size of cars, that respond to a mothership that stays up there, and who could possibly be that private individual or that consortium of private individuals? Who could it be? Well, we know somebody that's up there a lot and, with high technology and the ability to launch just about anything he wants to and bring it home safe like a boomerang. A remarkable man named Elon Musk. Elon Musk knows what's going on up there. President Trump says he knows what's going on up there. And so everybody stay calm. But, hmm, a fleet of huge drones with military capabilities, if they're sniffers, right? And then law enforcement working together. What about Space Force? What does Space Force say? Is this all just too low down for them to be interested? But gosh, with all of the capabilities that our military has now, the American people should easily find out what's going on, but for what we've all been stifled with when we try to broadcast opinions and speculations and but things that I think we should at least talk about, and then we get our channels taken down. The whole thing adds up to the American people are being kept in the dark, and so are the rest of the people in the world as to who's really running things. So that's why I think it's very important that the work that we did yesterday on the Pentagon's new map, be emphasized. Okay. Um, yeah, I know his lecture was kind of hard to absorb the technology of 2002 and him being his own very prima donna presentation. Calls himself said he admitted to having a messiah complex because he's going to reshape the world. Well, let's take a minute and get into his book here. This is my copy of it, The Pentagon's New Map by Thomas P. and Barnett, published in 2004. I didn't note when I bought it. I'm thinking it's about 2010 or so when I picked it up. And we have right here in front of my eyes on page 122 a definition of globalization, which I think um, is worth sharing with you. So get a little more light on the subject, and I'm going to read some for you. Um, okay, before I can draw, this is talking about his new map, and the map itself is on my thumbnail for yesterday's show. It basically shows the the a big loop around the world that shows the people that the countries that are going along with globalization, and then a real messy center called him, which he calls the gap, which is where the countries, for some reason or another, are resisting globalization, and that's where the military is always called upon to put out fires or do whatever, right? So when he's talking about the map, what we're really learning about is the process of globalization. And again, here's his book, page 122. Globalization is a condition defined by mutually assured dependence. To globalize your economy and your society, you must accept that the world will reshape your future far more than you can possibly hope to influence the world in return. Okay. Sounds like you're entering one of Dante's circles of hell. The continuity of the past, where son followed father in occupation for generations, will in most cases end with callous disregard for tradition. Moreover, if you globalize, you will import from that world outside far more than you can possibly offer in return. While your culture will be added to globalization's ever evolving mosaic, your society will, in return, be challenged to adapt to an amazing array of content flows. For example, parentheses, ideas about the role of women, free speech, quote, proper, unquote, education that come with globalization's connectivity. The same will hold true for the goods and services you can offer the world, which will pale in comparison with all the products that will flood your markets, challenging your producers and firms to adapt to a new competitive landscape or die. Most important, while your influence regarding global rule sets will be small, globalization's influence regarding your internal rule sets will be enormous. In fact, your importation and adaptation and adoption of these global rule sets will be the main price you pay for leaving your disconnectedness behind. It almost sounds like you got to go to the smelly robe club and lay down in the casket and be reborn as a part of you know the great globalization future. Um, I'm going to skip ahead because there's a part I wanted to read in particular. Oh, it's this is so manifest destiny is what it is. It's just continuing the manifest destiny myth. Um, okay. Sound incredibly difficult? It is. Americans tend to forget how difficult this is because most of the hardest compromises we made in building this country now seem far behind us. The Civil War, universal suffrage, civil rights. The reason Americans are so unconsciously comfortable with the emerging global rule sets is that they so intimately reflect what we have become, a multicultural free market economy whose minimal rule sets, parentheses telling us what we cannot do, not what we must do, allow for maximum individual freedom to go where we want, live where we want, and conduct our lives how we want. Of course, when you extend that rule out to the entire planet, you're going to find yourself dealing with a lot of issues you thought you would never encounter again. So the temptation is great to simply throw up our hands and exclaim, quote, we will never understand those people, unquote, when in reality, understanding them requires us in most instances simply to look into our past and remember ourselves. For example, America's greatest outbursts of nationalism have typically occurred during periods of increased interaction with the outside world, where global events have drawn us out of our natural inclination toward isolationism. We don't just engage the world, we embrace it with a messianic fervor that other states find quite disturbing. But such did you hear that? That was the sound of freedom. Our Navy guys over at Dahlgren testing out their equipment. There it was. You hear the explosion when they fire it, and then a couple seconds later, you hear the splash when it hits the river. Pretty amazing to live down here. We call that the sound of freedom. Don't know if you could hear it or not, but shook the table a little bit. Americans often seem flabbergasted with those who oppose globalization around the world when they protest that it is forced Americanization. We shouldn't be, because we are further along in this grand experiment called the United States, and because that model of mutually assured dependence, characterized by minimal rule sets, greatly predates globalization's advance. We may well enjoy a lead in this historical process. Wow, I guess we're going to have to take up the old white man's burden again, aren't we, Moss? Aren't we, folks? But with that lead comes responsibility. See, responsibility. For either we use our tremendous power as a nation to make globalization truly global, or we condemn some portion of humanity to an outsider status that will naturally morph through pain and time into a definition of the enemy. And once we have named our enemies, we will invariably wage war, unleashing the death and destruction that come with it. Remembering that disconnectedness itself is the ultimate enemy, America can, by extending globalization in a fair and just manner, not only defeat the threats it faces today, but eliminate in advance entire generations of threat that our children and grandchildren would otherwise face. In short, there is simply no possibility of keeping the threat, quote, outside, over there, unquote, anymore. If we as a nation accept the logic of globalization's advance, our definition of us must include all of them who now feel left out of globalization's benefits, as well as the them who would employ all manner of violence to deny its advance. This historical process is neither forced assimilation nor the extension of empire, but the expansion of freedom, first and foremost. Can you believe that? This historical process is neither forced assimilation nor the extension of empire, but the expansion of freedom, first and foremost. Yes. Oh my God. So, as you said in this lecture that we heard yesterday, according to Thomas P.M. Barnett, the supreme guru of Donald Rumsfeld and the person who designed the Y2K Pentagon project and then used the data from that to assess what happens after 9/11, and who sees all of these horrible events as ways to change the rules, is really just trying to increase our personal freedom. However, the trouble is that people that don't want to be part of globalization generally get so jealous of all the benefits of globalization that become evil. And then we have to squash the evil ones. We have to go out and quash them. So by extending globalization right now in advance, we're saving our children and grandchildren's grandchildren forever and ever from ever having to confront that evil that arises whenever some country or state or group of people refuses to accept the world rule set and become part of globalization. So I think that's just a remarkable way, which, when I've read this book, years ago, 20, maybe 15 years ago, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what he was saying because I couldn't really fathom somebody saying what he was saying. But what he is saying is that the United States military, the Pentagon, is going to extend its capabilities into computer networking, and that sphere, as well as into major special operations all around the world. And where they get called upon is usually in these places that he calls the gap. And the places in the gap, boy, they are dangerous places because those people could get so mad that they didn't get the benefits of globalization that they would do something evil, like empower some individual, like the evil Osama bin Laden, for instance, to attack um, innocent people in a big way in New York City. So, is there anybody now that would try to attack New York City in a big way? Hmm. My read of the situation in Ukraine is that Zelensky is getting more and more desperate, and the impending presidency of President Donald Trump is going to put an end to his ability to fight the war. The idea that Europe is going to finance it, I was hoping to talk about Harley with about Harley about with Harley this morning, but I just don't see Europe being able to finance a major war. And this is a huge, huge war. Um, I usually watch Military Summary Channel. There's a very good commentator. I think he is Belarusian, and his English is superb. Uh, there's a little bit of charming Russianness in it, which is always fun, and but he uses really detailed maps and has a really good oversight of what's going on. And from what I see, the Ukrainian side is just going to get more and more desperate and do desperate things. Um, how could they do something in the United States without the American military establishment knowing it? Well, they couldn't, could they? And so that's what I think at bottom is the bottom line of most of people's concern here when we see, that everything is not right. It's just it's not right. You should not have you know huge drones flying around in, unexplained in fleets and hovering over military installations and cities and things. This is not right. This is so we're in cognitive dissonance, right? Here we are. We live in the safest, greatest. I mean, we just heard it from Thomas P. and Barnett. We living in the greatest, safest, freest country that ever existed. So why should we have mysterious drones with motherships and stuff flying around over our most important cities? Don't know. Well, I think I'll probably just call it here, and maybe if I hear from Harley at noon, we'll see if we can do something. But thanks for being with me this morning here at McDuff Lives. Thanks for following me on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. And all of my archives now are also on BitChute at McDuff Uncensored. You can see every single show I've done ever since, I guess, well, it's been almost 4 years now, all of them. So, and I'm grateful to BitChute for being there and archiving everything with no censorship ever. So, just saying hi on the chat here. Corky's here. Barbara K is here. Polly is here. And looks like they're enjoying the chat. All right. Thanks for being with me. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. I'm not sure who's going to be my guest, but it'll be somebody very interesting, I'm sure.